It's nice to see so many seniors here. We who work with elders, we look and you know what we see? Job security. I like it. We've been doing some intergenerational programs because does everyone know it's school vacation week? Good, I thought you were playing hooky. So I did a QATV with my son who's over there, Kent, and my nephew Peter. And we talked about what was going on at the Kennedy Center today, and I thought I'd set up a really good joke. Things never work out exactly how you plan. So I said, we're having a presentation on owls. I said, what do owls say? And I figured that they would say, yeah. And then I would say, owls. And then, who? And owls? And I thought, that would be pretty good. Except they looked at me and said, they say hoot. So it kind of left me there. But anyway, we're delighted that so many of you are here today. We have Mark and Marsha. The presentation is Eyes on Owls. And I know you didn't come here to see me speak, so I'm not going to speak any longer. But I just want to thank the staff and volunteers here at the Kennedy Center. They do a great job. And we're thrilled to have so many young kids with us. I'm Tom Clasby. I'm the director. I'm sorry. I was rather presumptuous.
Thanks, Tom.
That's the sound of an owl that lives right around us. Maybe a familiar sound to some of you, but if you woke up in the middle of the night and outside your bedroom window you heard woo, 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 woo. What kind of an owl is it? What's the real name of the owl?
She got it.
Great horned owl. And how old are you, sweetheart?
5 years old. She knew the sound of the great horned owl. That's awesome.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
We have a handsome rendition of a great horned owl on our banner here. And we're going to have some fun with owls here this afternoon, all of us together. And we are thrilled to be here. And I've got to say, I grew up on the Scituate-Norwell line, and so it's great to be back here on the South Shore. And we'd stay here if we could. Mark is from the North Shore, so, you know.
North meets South. Yeah.
But it's so wonderful that you're situated right on the salt marsh here, too, because you could see snowy owls in the wintertime, as probably some of you have over the years. Have any of you ever seen snowy owls around here? Sure.
Yeah, they
Okay,
like
great.
salt marsh, and then you see them sometimes sitting on light poles or osprey nesting platforms.
Right.
So this is prime winter habitat for snowy owls right here.
Right, so we're going to talk about what owls you could see or hear right here on the South Shore. And we've got a three-part program in store for you. We're going to start by reading one of our favorite books about owls, Owl Babies. Do any of you know Owl Babies? Okay, and you're going to help us read it in a very special part. And we're all going to participate. And after we finish reading Owl Babies, which is a lot of fun, I'll start to bring the owls out one by one or two by two. And how many owls did we bring here today, Mark?
How many do you think? Well, I'll give you a hint. That box there is empty.
That's a birdhouse.
So that's a birdhouse. So how many did we bring? Six. Yes, six
Right.
owls. And of the six we brought, 5 of them you could see potentially right here in Quincy or Massachusetts. The 6th one you'll have to travel to Europe or Asia, unless you're here today, of course, and then you get to see this international owl right here.
Right.
But I won't tell you who it is yet. So
Right,
we are
and-
gonna
And then part 3
is
is hooting lessons, because you almost never see owls, do you? Because they usually come out at night. And what do we call nighttime creatures? Nocturnal, right. And so some of you may know this book, Owl Moon. Do any of you know this book? Share with your family. The little girl and her dad heard that back in the woods on a snowy night. They bundled up and they went out and they made that sound as best they could with their mouths, just like I'm doing, and the owl answered them. And you can do the same thing. I bet some of you have hooted back to owls. Oh, come on, admit it.
who's done
All
it?
right, yeah. Did
Okay.
they answer? Yes, they
Did
have
they
to be in the
answer
mood.
you? Yeah.
But it's always worth a try, and all of the different owls have different voices. Who knew? So, Mark is going to be our book holder here. And we're going to have some fun with owl babies. Once there were 3 baby owls, Sarah and Percy and Bill. They lived in a hole in the trunk of a tree with their owl mother. The hole had leaves and twigs and owl feathers in it. It was their house. One night, though, they woke up and their owl mother was gone. "Oh my goodness," said Sarah. "Where's Mommy?" said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. Bill's the little guy. And he always says, "I want my mommy," says Bill. And when I get to that part, he's going to keep saying it and saying, when I get to that part, I want you to help me out, okay? Help me say, "I want my mommy," says Bill. So, and your sign is going to be, I'll go like this. So let's practice, everybody. "I want my mommy," said Bill.
That was good. Maybe a little too quiet, but that was good. But what if we all tried saying it with a whiny voice?
Oh, we remember that, right?
Can you guys practice with your whiny voice? So when Marsha gives you the signal,
Grown-ups too, right?
let's do the grown-ups
Okay,
too.
here we
Grown-ups
go.
can whine.
"I want my mommy," said Bill. All right, yeah. You never forget how to whine, right? Well, the baby owl sat and thought, since all owls think a lot. "I think she's gone hunting," said Sarah. "To get us our food," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. But their owl mother didn't come. And so the baby owls came out of their house and sat on the tree and waited. A big branch for Sarah, a small branch for Percy, and an old piece of ivy down there for Bill. "Oh, she'll be back," said Sarah. "Back soon," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. Oh, but it was dark in the woods and they had to be brave for things moved all around them. "She'll bring us mice and things that are nice," said Sarah. "I suppose so," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. Well, they sat and they thought, since all owls think a lot, "I think maybe we should all sit over on my branch," said Sarah. And so they did, all 3 together. "Suppose she got lost," said Sarah. "Or a fox got her," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. And so the baby owls closed their owl eyes and wished their owl mother would come. She came. Soft and silent, she swooped through the trees all the way back to Sarah and Percy and Bill. "Mommy, Mommy," they cried, and they flapped and they danced and they bounced up and down on that branch. Who was the happiest of all to see her? Oh, little Bill. He almost jumped out of his feathers. Just kidding. They can't do that. But he was excited, but so was the mommy owl. "Ooh, ooh, 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 what's all the fuss?" their owl mother asked. "You knew I'd be back." "Ooh, oh." Well, the baby owl sat and thought, since all owls think a lot. "I knew it," said Sarah, and "I knew it," said Percy. "I love my mommy," said Bill. So of course she came back, bringing mice and things that are nice. Thank you, Mark. Okay, what do you suppose she brought back? Thank you. What kind of things do you think she brought back? Raise your hand if you have some ideas.
What do you think?
Little animals and mice.
Mice and things that are nice, yeah. Yeah, I think she brought back some mice. What do you think? What did she bring back for them to eat besides mice?
Snails.
Snails.
Snails, yeah.
Ooh, a little escargot, huh?
Ooh.
Okay.
What
Wow.
else? Maybe snakes, maybe crickets. Yeah, maybe a rabbit.
A rabbit.
Ooh, yeah, a rabbit. Squirrels. Okay, well, I'm not going to be holding the owls with my bare hands, am I? Because they have very sharp claws called talons, right. And are the owls our pets? Can you have an owl as a pet? No, not in this country. We can't have wild creatures as pets. The only reason we can have the owls that we take care of, and Mark, we didn't tell them how big our team is.
Yeah, we take care of 14 owls, so we have 8 owls home sleeping today. They went out yesterday, 6 of them went out anyway. And so we rotate the crew. You know, they don't have to work back-to-back days because they're in a good union. They're in the owl union. And they have very good benefits and good contract. So they come out every other day. And we're going to introduce you to the owls you can see right here in your backyard. You don't have to travel to California or Japan or Italy. You can see them right here.
Right. And the only way we can have them is with licenses. We have a license from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the federal government, and we also have licenses for different New England states. Here in Massachusetts, we have a license from Massachusetts Wildlife. And those licenses tell us that we cannot let any of you touch or hold the owls. We'll get you nice and close as I walk across the front and down the middle with them. They're going to be perched on my hand, and they're going to be clipped onto my belt here, so they're not going to get away and land in your heads or in your laps, although you might think you might want that. And some of them can't fly that well anyway, because they all have a disability of some kind. How does that work, Mark?
Yeah, they all have injuries, either physical or developmental, and that's the reason we can keep these owls. They can't be released back to the wild. They're permanently disabled in some way, and that's why we have them sometimes for many, many years. I mean, this owl here could live to be 60, and he's only 14 now. So this isn't something you do lightly, adopting owls. It's a life commitment.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle commitment. And we'll talk about their stories when they come out, what their disabilities are.
Right, and then there's a real good reason that we don't let them loose in the room. Number one, we're not allowed to, but number two, it's the reason that Mark has a very special job today. Folks,
I guess I know what that
do
is.
you think the owls are going to raise their wings and ask to go use the bathroom? No. And we've never found owl diapers, so...
So what do you think my job is? Clean up the poop. Yeah, I prefer to call it whitewash. It sounds a little better. So my job is whitewash patrol.
Okay, let's give him a nice round of applause for being willing to be whitewash patrol once again.
Thank you.
And since it is school vacation week, boys and girls work out every single day, so he's been cleaning up quite a bit of whitewash lately.
Yeah, my arm is getting tired from wiping up whitewash. But hey, it's a living, so.
But we might find something else in the boxes that's really interesting. Who knows what those weird things are that owls have to cough up the next day
What do you think
after
they're
they
called?
eat? What do you
I was
think?
gonna say eggs.
Not eggs. What were you gonna say?
Like those pellets.
Pellets. Yeah.
Is that what you were going to say? No. Okay.
Pellets. The
Owl
5-year-old
pellets.
comes up with it again. Yeah. That is awesome. She knows about pellets. She knows about great horned owls.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, and for those of you that don't know about owl pellets,
They get regurgitated. And how many of you have taken apart an owl pellet? Maybe at camp or school?
okay, I see some hands.
Okay,
Good.
well, a lot of young hands. I don't see any older hands. You should put this on your bucket list to take one apart, because inside a pellet, you'll find all the bones and fur from the animal that the owl ate. So you can figure out whether it's a bat or a shrew or a bird or a vole or whatever it is that the owl ate based on the bones in that pellet.
Yeah.
How come some of you are looking at me like I'm crazy? Believe me, a lot of people take these apart. And if we're really lucky, we might see an owl cough one up right in front of you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be lucky? Yeah.
And you know, a lot of us Boy Scout, Girl Scout groups, and camps take them apart. So we're not making this up. So.
A lot of science classes.
Right, science
4th, 5th,
classes.
6th grade.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the littlest owls first. They are screech owls, and they come in 2 colors, but wait a minute. Here's a pellet mark,
Okay,
and it's got a feather stuck to
we'll
it.
start the collection.
Okay, here we go.
So this is a 1 mouse pellet with a feather stuck to it. Let me get the feather off of it. There we go.
Oh, and there we have. No.
Whitewash?
Well, inside the box, that's
Oh,
fine,
that's-
but there's also a pellet in there.
Okay.
For from this little guy. Screech owls come in two different colors. We call this red. It's kind of a rusty red, of course, and gray. And screech owls live right here in Quincy. But how many of you have actually seen a little screech owl? Okay, Mark, we have several hands. And during the daytime, they're in holes in trees. Now, they don't have a very good name because they don't screech, actually. They make a little... Who would like to come up and help us with that call? Anybody? Would anybody like to volunteer and help us with that call? How about young lady in the purple in the front row? Come on up.
You can stand right in front of Marcia, okay? So right there, stand right in front of Marcia and face everybody. And what's your name?
Anna.
Anna. Well, we're going to surround you with screech owls, Anna. Yeah, and I hope you don't mind, Anna, but you have two owls staring at you. But that's okay, you're not a mouse, so you're not in any danger. So Anna, Marcia will do the call, and then you can do it, okay? It's a fun call to do.
Okay, nice round
Nice.
of
That
applause.
was Anna. Nice job. Get that to see. That was
Yeah.
excellent.
Well, both of these little owls were hit by cars or trucks, different times, different places. The little gray screech owl was found somewhere in Weymouth 6 years ago and was brought to the New England Wildlife Center in Weymouth. It's a wildlife rehabilitation center, and they had to remove her right eye. So she's lucky to be alive though, isn't she? And she's at least 6 years old. The little red screech owl was found in Bolton, Massachusetts, west of 495, and he had a fractured clavicle. It's like our collarbone. You know where your collarbone is, right? And he was brought to Tufts Wildlife Clinic, which is part of the veterinary school, and they gave him medical attention, and he healed, but then it turns out that he cannot fly well enough to be able to live on his own. So we've had him for 14 years. And he was all grown up like he is today when he was found. And what do we call these things up on top of the head, Mark?
Well, since we're on television here, we got to get the ear tufts up to look good for TV. So these little tufts on top of the head, they're not ears, but we call them ear tufts. And they're just a group of little feathers that really make the owl look distinguished.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
All right.
So some owls have them, some owls don't. And it's one of the ways you can identify an owl is noticing whether there's ear tufts or not. Yeah. So how much do you think these little owls would weigh? Any guesses? What do you think? How much? 3 pounds is the front row guess here. That's a good guess, but it's way too much. So what's less than 3 pounds? What would you guess? Say it again. 1 pound? Still too much. How much would you guess? What's less than 1 pound? 0 pounds. So you're saying this owl is weightless, like an astronaut in space?
Ooh, they're going to float away.
Oh, well, here's our range. It's more than 0, but less than 1. So what do you think? Half a pound. Still too much. Yeah, what do you think? Oh, give the girl a prize. 1/4 pound. Yeah, about the same as a hamburger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So owls don't weigh much. They're lightweight. They're covered with what? Feathers.
Feathers, right.
And what about birds' bones? Solid or filled with air? Hollow. Yeah, they have lots of airspace. So their bones aren't very heavy, but they're really strong.
Now, I'm sure some of you have some questions. Raise your hand if you have any questions.
Question right here, young man. Who happens to share the color of the red screech owl?
Oh.
What's your question?
1.
1.
Oh, you're still guessing the weight? Oh, yeah, okay. No, 1's too much. Kind of moved on there, but that's okay. Question here.
2.
Oh, boy. I think we're in a time warp on this side of the room here.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Hey, do any of the adults have any questions? Yes, on the aisle.
Yes, I'm going to get the mic on you. I think we can reach. Yes.
Are there any owls on the endangered species list?
There are indeed. Massachusetts has an endangered species list, and this owl that we're going to show you is on it. It's the barn owl. And then nationally, the federal endangered species list has spotted owl on it. And we'll show you a close relative to the spotted owl. It's the barred owl in this box. So federally, there's only one owl that's endangered. State-wise, there's two, I think, that are on the list, short-eared owl and barn owl. Yeah, and I'll get that whitewash, Marcia.
Any other questions? Yes. Do they eat all the time? They usually eat at around sunset, or sometimes during the night, or some of them wait until just before the sun comes up, before they turn in. And of course, you know what we feed them, right? Mice. We have big freezers full of mice. Yeah, supper time gets real interesting around our house.
How come they're all backing away from you, Marcia?
Well, you need to understand that when I was growing up, my mom did programs like this for the South Shore Natural Science Center. She and my dad were some of the founders. And so they had a couple of different kinds of owls, and we had the mice up in the refrigerator next to the ice cream and the hot dogs. So it's perfectly normal.
It explains a lot, Marcia. Yeah.
We have a question over here, good and loud.
I think that's more they grow, they kind of get a little bit more power.
And the more they grow, they kind of get a little more pounds. Exactly right.
Yeah.
They do.
So these owls are full grown though. These aren't babies. This is as big as they'll ever get. And the rule of thumb is, once a bird can fly, that's the size it's going to be its whole life. It doesn't keep growing. So these owls can fly at about 6 or 7 weeks old. And they're full grown at that stage. Imagine if you were full grown at 6 weeks. You'd be in college in like week 7. Yeah, be pretty cool. Question back here. Let me get you on the mic so we can all hear. Hold on.
Personalities they have. They have different personalities.
Each individual owl has its own. They're not affectionate. No, owls are generally not affectionate. Maybe with each other, but not with people. So it's not like a cat or dog that would make a good pet. But some of the owls, are high-strung. Some are more relaxed, and that can be within the same kind of owl species.
Yeah. Mark, let's share them.
I'll get to your question in a moment. We're going to first demonstrate how you could attract owls to your neighborhood or yard even.
Yeah, by putting up a birdhouse. Now, they live in holes in trees, but as you all know, a lot of times dead trees fall down, or sometimes we have to cut them down. So why not add a few more cavities for the cavity dwellers, like the owls? And they like to sit in the hole, just like that. And they really do look that cute. And they feel safe in there. And they have their babies in there. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Okay, well, we're going to move up in owl size now, but I know we had a couple more questions.
Yeah, I'll get to those questions here.
While I'm
You had one
changing
here.
gloves.
How did they get the reputation of being a wise bird?
Big eyes. That's my theory. Big eyes can make you think they're smart. Now, those big eyes come at the expense of some brain size. So they don't have particularly big brains, but they have very good memories. So among birds, the smartest birds are probably crows, ravens, and jays, and parrots. Those are like the bird brains of the world, the smart ones. Owls aren't the smartest, but they have great memories, and they can see in low light because of those big eyes, and they're highly specialized. They're adapted to their nocturnal environment. Now, this next owl is probably the most common owl in New England. Here in Quincy, it would be a winter visitor.
And this is a barred owl. And barred owls get their name from the bars that run from shoulder to shoulder. So it's a pattern on their feathers. Here are stripes down here. And so it's not the rare barn owl that you're going to meet after this one. And right now I've got my finger in her right ear. It's right behind her eyes. And if you look at an owl's face, you'll be able to see big circles around the eyes. Those are called facial discs, and we'll talk more about them in a moment after the hooting lesson.
Okay.
Well, barred owls really lets you know when they're around. I bet some of you have heard. Who's ever heard that? Either around here or up north, maybe. Okay, yeah. And who would like to help us with that call? Anybody? How about young man over here? Come on up. Okay, you can stand right here.
And what's your name?
Peter?
Peter, thanks for coming up. Have you ever seen or heard of barn owl, Peter?
No?
Do you hope to someday?
Yeah?
Okay, look to your left. There's one right there. Excellent. All right. So, Peter, this is a fun call to do. It sounds like monkeys in the woods sometimes when you hear them. So, Marshall will do the call, Peter, and then you can try it, okay?
Goes. Very nice, but you're not done yet because sometimes they just do the last couple of notes. They go. Right. All right. Nice.
Big round of applause for Peter. What a great job.
All
Thanks
right.
for
All right.
Nice job. All right.
All right. Well, you see those circles around the eyes. Those are called facial discs, as I mentioned, and they help the owl hear. After all, do you know where the ear holes on birds are? Point to us on your own heads and show us where the ear holes are. Yeah, they're right on the sides of their heads. Right now, I've got my finger in her right ear. And you can pretend that you're listening like an owl. They have very good hearing. This is how you do it. Take both of your hands, like Mark's doing, put one behind each ear, and that makes sounds louder, doesn't it? It directs the sound waves.
Now, you don't want to cover your ears. That's kind of like the opposite of being an owl. That's like being a mole underground. You don't want to cover your ears. You want your ears to open up and catch the sound like this. And so you can hear a lot better when you do that, just like the owls use that same effect with their facial discs around their face. Now, this owl was hit by a car up in New Hampshire on a highway, and she was luckily rescued and brought to the animal hospital, and the doctors realized after they x-rayed her that her wing was broken in many places. So they decided they had to remove her right wing.
Right.
So you notice she only has one wing. So can she fly? No. And do you think she'll grow that wing back? Unfortunately not. So the good news is she does live with her boyfriend, and he can't fly either, so they keep each other company. He was also from New Hampshire, and he was hit by a different car on a different road. But it happens a lot to barred owls. They get hit by cars many times in a year.
And did you say how old they are?
I did mention they're both 18 years old.
Yeah.
And they came to us when they were both less than 1 year old. So they're youngsters when they came to us, but they can live into their 30s. And in the wild, an old one would probably be 15. In captivity, I would expect them to be able to double that, go into their 30s. So the bigger an owl, the longer they can live. This is kind of the rule of thumb.
Right. Now, you're probably noticing how easily owls can look straight over their backs. If you were to turn your head without moving your shoulders, how much of a circle can you turn your head? Half a circle, right. And owls can actually go 3/4 of a circle in one direction, back to the front, and 3/4 of a circle around in the other direction. So they can go 3 times farther than we can.
But you know what? You can't do something with your eyes that they can do. What is it? I'm going to get you on the mic because you've got some great answers here. Let's see what you're going to say.
I think it's...
Well, can they move their eyes? Can an owl move its eyes? Watch the owl. Do you see the eyes move?
No.
You're right. They can't move their eyes.
But they can blink.
Their eyes are fixed in their head. Yeah. So you know how you can roll your eyes up and down, left and right? Owls can't do that. Yeah. So,
Yeah, so
how much?
they're known for that.
Let's see how deep the feathers are in this marsh,
Oh,
on this owl.
they're
Are.
really deep.
Thick feathers.
Yeah, really thick.
And that bird's body probably isn't much bigger around than Marcia's arm. So what do you think a barn owl would weigh?
Any guesses back there?
Any adult guesses living on the edge here? Take a guess, take a guess. Oh, she nailed it right out of the gate.
2 pounds.
Have you seen this before? You're just naturally smart. I know. Yeah, she nailed it. 2 pounds. Now what's interesting, her boyfriend only weighs 1.25 pounds. So in the world of owls, the males are smaller than the females. Females are bigger, stronger, and they're the ones that have to lay the eggs, incubate the eggs, protect the nest, while the males are off hunting. So it pays for her to be bigger. Yeah. So if you see a pair of ospreys, like out in the marsh, the bigger one is the female. If you see a pair of eagles, bigger one's the female. And with most owls, the larger one is the female. All right, so this next owl gets confused with the barn owl because the name sounds similar. This next owl is a barn owl, B-A-R-N. And this would be a very rare owl in Quincy, although you could potentially see them here. They may have nested on the Boston Harbor Islands at one point in some of the old abandoned buildings out there. And, oh, Marcia, thank you. That's a nice mucus-covered pellet she just gave me.
Nice and gooey.
Very wet.
Nice and wet.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, it helps it come up. And yeah, the barn owl is a beautiful owl. And look what she's doing. Yeah, she's checking it out. She's saying, oh, look at that nice marsh out there. Yeah. Let's greet her. Let's greet her. What is she doing when she's rocking her head? She is focusing, yes.
Yeah, she's rocking her ears and eyes to get a better view and better hearing of the room. And that's what, she's also checking out the rafters, as you can see. She would love to be sitting up in those girders there.
Yep.
And she's looking at the speakers, saying, I can sit up on these places.
Yeah.
So if we let her go, you'd never get her back. She'd be sitting up there in the peak of the room.
We'd be here for days until she got hungry enough to come down for a mouse.
Yeah.
But barn owls are really rare around here. They're found in warmer places. They cannot take the cold here in the wintertime. But the real call of the barn owl is a hissing sound. They go, shh. Try that. So if you walk into an old barn or a shed or a factory building and up in the rafters, you hear that hissing, maybe it's a barn
She
owl.
loves this room.
Yes,
Look,
she
she's
does.
checking the room out.
Well, there's lots of places to sit.
You know, one night, I used to be a photographer at the Boston Globe, and one night I was covering one of the elections, and that meant a late night, and I was coming out to my car after the election. It's about 2 in the morning, and at the Globe, they park cars on the roof. So I was going out to my car, and I'm looking out towards the expressway at 2 in the morning, and I see this white bird flying towards me. I go, that's weird. I don't think a gull would be out at night. And as it gets closer, I realize it's a barn owl flying over the expressway, over the Globe. And as it flies over me, I realize it's carrying a giant rat. Maybe from the election. And it flew over and went over Columbia Point and disappeared. And so that barn owl was carrying food to a nest somewhere, maybe on the Harbor Islands, I'm guessing, maybe on Peddix Island or somewhere out there, because they nest in old buildings. And as you know, Peddix Island has a lot of old buildings on it. So they could be still nesting here, although I gotta say, 2 winters ago, that harsh winter we had, you remember winter 2 winters ago? We lost a lot of barn owls. Out on the Martha's Vineyard Island, they used to have 37 pairs of barn owls nesting. Now there's only 1 pair. They all perished 2 winters ago. So you can see the cold weather is really not what they're adapted for. But they do eat a lot of rats, a lot of mice, and which brings up, I'll get that whitewash in a minute. I know you're all getting antsy with that, but yeah, I'll get to it in a
Well,
moment.
it's not going to go anywhere,
Yeah.
folks.
But I just wanted to mention, if you have a rat or a mouse problem in the house, try not to use poison. Because when you poison a rat or a mouse, it doesn't die right away. It may go outside and act kind of sick. And then an owl or a hawk or a fox or your pet cat might eat that mouse or rat. And then where does the poison go? Into that animal, yeah. So if you got to get rid of a rat or a mouse in the house, use a snap trap. Good old-fashioned mouse trap or rat trap. Bait it with some peanut butter, and that way you're not going to poison any other animals like owls or hawks or your cat or your baby brother or sister or things like that. So it's much safer not to use poison.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, this barn owl hatched at a zoo, and we got to adopt her when she was only 10 days old, and she's now 8 years old. So she can't take care of herself out in the wild because she's been raised by people. She's actually imprinted on people instead of on barn owls. And a lot of times, animals and birds hatch or are born in zoos or captive places, and usually they cannot be put into the outdoors because they don't know enough about how to survive. Have any of you seen barn owls in your lives? Yeah? Where? Route 38 in the Blue Hills. Yeah? Okay. All right.
Were you seeing them at night? During the day? Okay. You wouldn't be out at night on Route 38? I was going to ask you what you were doing out at night on Route 38. That's a known parking spot. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Anybody else seen barn owls?
No, it's a rare bird. It's on the state endangered
Yeah.
species list.
If you go to the south of here, actually they're found on 6 continents in the warmer parts of the world.
But if you go to Texas or Florida, they're much more common than here.
Right.
So yeah.
On the aisle has a question.
Question. I think I can get you to the mic here.
They use their talons to catch their prey. Do they use their talons to kill their prey? And what do they use their beaks for?
Besides eating, yeah. Well, they will sometimes kill their prey with their talons. You know, they'll drive the talons into the head and neck of the prey. And if that doesn't do it, they'll snap the neck of the prey with their beak. And then they use their beak to rip the prey apart. You know, like a small mouse, they might swallow whole. But if they catch, you know, a bigger animal like a squirrel, they can't swallow that whole, they'd have to rip it apart.
And if they are going to swallow something whole, like a chipmunk or a mouse, which end do they swallow first, the head or the tail? The head, of course, that's the best part. That's where the brains are, right? Yeah, and then the tail goes down last.
Okay.
Yeah, we get to see these things.
So this next owl is the eagle owl, the Eurasian eagle owl. It's a close cousin to our great horned owl. And normally we do bring a great horned owl, but he is home recovering from an eye injury.
And the eagle owl is hooting.
Well, let's listen. Let's see if we can hear him hoot.
Okay, so let's have you quiet as mice and listen. Look, that was one. Okay, quiet as mice. If he's in the mood.
Here, I'll boot to him. See if I can get him going.
So he goes, whoo. Try that. Whoo. Let's see, one more try here. Whoo. You can never predict.
Good job, audience. You got him going.
Yeah.
He was watching traffic go by.
Yeah.
Owls are easily distracted. Yeah. If there's something moving in the room, he's instantly watching it, wants to know what's going on.
Right.
And so this owl, you might notice, has big pumpkin-colored eyes, like jack-o'-lantern colored. And this owl is found in Europe and Asia. It's found as far west as Portugal, as far north as Finland and Russia, and then east into Russia and Japan. So it's found across 2 continents. Here in North America, the closest owl related to it is the great horned owl. They look very similar, although eagle owls are bigger. Now he's a male, He's a small male, actually. He weighs 4.5 pounds. At home, we have a female that weighs 10 pounds, but she doesn't hoot in programs. So yeah. So he's looking around, noticing everything. He would take down, in the wild, these owls could take down a fawn, could take down a badger, could take down a hare, which could weigh as much as 10 or 11 pounds. So they can take down some large animals. We've got plenty of room over here. We can't have them sitting on the tarp. So there's an opening right over
Yeah, you
here.
don't want to be underneath the owl.
Because otherwise I'll be giving him a whitewash shampoo.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do that. Yeah.
Now, this owl also hatched in a zoo, so he's imprinted on people. He's 14 years old, and he could live into his 50s or 60s.
Wow.
So the bigger the owl, the longer they can live. And they have no natural enemies. There he's looking straight over his back, like that.
Yeah.
And the large owls don't have any natural enemies because, I mean, look at the size of the feet and the talons. Nobody wants to mess with them. We think that they're called eagle owls because they're the size of some eagles, and they're also the color of some eagles, especially in Europe and Asia.
And they nest in old eagles' nests. So they could use an old eagle's nest for their own
But
babies.
then again, our great horned owls that are related to him nest in bald eagles' nests and even ospreys' nests as well.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Question right there, nice and loud. Does he have a name? His name is Bubo Bubo. And that's actually his scientific name. That's his real scientific name. We don't give him pet names. We use their scientific name. So his name's Bubo Bubo. The screech owl is Megascops azio. The barred owl is Strix varia. The barn owl is Tyto alba. That's Bubo Bubo. And the next owl you're going to meet is Bubo scandiacus. So that's all scientific names. Question here. How did we acquire him? He hatched in a zoo, and we adopted him when he was only a month old, and we raised him. So he's imprinted on people. Question way up back.
Throughout nature, male and female have distinguishing marks. Is what a difference in marks, or?
It's very hard to tell male from female, particularly if you don't see them side by side, because usually the bigger one's the female. But with him, we did a blood test, and also from his behavior, his courtship behavior with us, we can tell he's a male. But in the wild, it's tricky. It's very difficult to tell. Somehow the owls can tell easily, but for us, it's tricky. Yeah, question here. How many eggs in their lifetime? Oh, that's a good question. Typically, they'll lay 2 eggs a year, but in a lifetime in the wild, say they are breeding for 30 years, times 2, potentially could be 60. Yeah?
Yeah, the larger the owl, the more long-lived they are. So, and they have fewer young at a time, but they live longer, so they have them for over many years.
Okay, so this next owl is going to blast out of here. So front row, here's what's going to happen. This owl's going to blast out. You're not in any danger. Please don't scream. If you think you're going to be upset or startled, cover your mouth with your hand, okay? But the owl can't get away. Maybe you can back up about 2 feet.
Yeah, so I don't sit on you or
Yeah.
step on you rather.
Yeah, because I think she might be a little startled.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys ready?
Let's have everybody out of the
No
aisle.
screaming. And you can push out of the aisle here, okay? Push over. Because this owl might whack you in the head with its wing if you're in the aisle. So push over. Can you slide over that way? Push, push, push.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Good. Okay, here we go. No screaming. Nice job, front row. Excellent. You guys are really good.
So there's no mistaking a beautiful snowy owl. And you say, oh yeah, that looks familiar out there in the salt marsh. That's a place where snowy owls are sometimes seen. Snowy owls really don't make a lot of sound when they're here in the wintertime, but they can cackle. Let's see if he'll cackle for us. They go. He did a little bit. So try that. Try that. And then once they fly back to the Arctic, the far north where they breed, they hoot, but it's more of a rough whoo, whoo. Try that. Yeah, okay. Well, this snowy owl is also imprinted, and we adopted him from a zoo, very luckily, 10 years ago. And he is outfitted just like a wild snowy owl, though. He's got a face full of feathers. Is that feathers or fur on his feet? Who says feathers? Who says fur? Do birds have fur? They're feathers. Looks like fur.
What kind of animals have fur? What class of animals? What class of animals? Lions? Well, mammals. Yeah, you got it. Mammals, right. Are we mammals? Yeah, we have fur. Except for special, we call it hair. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the snowy owl, as I say, spends part of the year in the Arctic and part of the year in the northern states. Now, I've got to share with you, and I haven't been able to tell this to any other group yet in our 21 years, but when I was 8 years old, my family, my two brothers and I and my parents, used to drive around the airfield back here. And that was back when there was still a drive-in movie theater. Who remembers the drive-in movie theater? Okay. Well, my first snowy owl was sitting up on top of this drive-in movie theater in the winter.
On the screen.
On the screen, right.
Was there any movie playing at the time?
No, not in the winter.
Oh, okay.
No.
I thought, Quincy, hardy people live here. I thought maybe they do winter movies. Yeah.
So that was a really pleasant memory, and Mark and I have been to the Arctic now 7 times to study snowy owls and all the other creatures up there. So it's just a magical environment, but that snowy owl here in Quincy was my first.
Does anybody remember when that was torn down, that screen? Any rough idea? Was that in the 70s maybe? 70s? Okay. Yeah, because I remember seeing it from the expressway as a kid. You can look down at it, but I didn't know when that came down. It's kind of that's an endangered species, huh? Drive-in movie theaters.
Yeah, drive-in movie theaters, yeah.
This owl can fly over 60 miles an hour, so it's the fastest type of owl in the world. And in the Arctic in the summer, they don't eat as many ducks like they do here in the winter. In Quincy, this owl eats a lot of ducks and gulls, and maybe rats and some other rodents, but mostly gulls and ducks. And some of you might know that a lot of these owls show up at Logan Airport, and they trap and remove them from Logan because they don't want jets striking them, and it would kill the owl. It might bring down the jet. So they remove them, and then they release them down at Duxbury Beach or Plymouth Beach or out on the Cape or up at Plum Island. Now, when they do trap them, some of them, they put a transmitter on them. And in this picture, see if you can spot the transmitter. It's on the bird's back. It's a little black and white backpack. And this transmitter uploads GPS data. And then you can go on a website called projectsnowstorm.org. And you can track where these owls have been. And the battery in that transmitter is good for 3 years. So you can find out where this owl went after they released it. It was trapped at Logan, released at Duxbury, and then it flew back to the Arctic. This was 2 summers ago. And then you can see where it's been since. So it's pretty cool. It's cool stuff.
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Any other questions? And question over here, young man. Good and loud.
Is that Peter? Oh no, it's his brother. A comment. Let me see if I can reach you with a microphone. It sounds like a comment. Come on over here.
It's a comment. I saw a snowy owl when I was on the beach.
What beach? You remember? Was it around here?
Just a couple weeks ago.
Squantum, yeah. Beaches are one of the great places to see snowy owls. Yeah, what was the owl doing?
I was just sitting on the rock.
Yeah, owls do a lot of sitting,
Yeah.
a lot of watching.
Lucky you.
Yeah, that's
Wonderful.
great. Yeah, that owl's probably gone now and it's probably headed to the Arctic. It's probably migrating north.
Yeah.
Question there, nice and loud. What's this owl's disability, she asks. Marcia?
This owl is imprinted on people, raised by people. He hatched in a zoo, and he's now 10 years old, so he doesn't know how to take care of himself outdoors in the wild.
Question there.
Back at home base,
Back at home base,
they have to be individual cages, or they
they're in individual cages. Yes, they're not all together because if you put 15 owls in one big cage, by morning you'd have 6 or 7. They'd eat each other. The big ones would eat the little ones, so it would not be a good scene. Question here.
I just heard the owl.
Which one? Oh, the snowy owl?
He
Yeah.
chattered again, yeah.
Yeah. Question here.
I forgot.
You forgot, okay. That's all right. If you remember, we'll come back to
We have
you.
a question right here.
The owls that were from zoos, are they from local zoos here, or are they from all around?
She's wondering what zoos the owls are from. No, none of them are local zoos. A couple of them are from zoos in upstate New York. But we have not adopted any from local zoos. Yeah, question here.
Bones hollow.
Why are they hollow? Well, the owl might ask you why you're solid. It's a weight-saving adaptation. Strong, yet lightweight. So if they had solid bones, they would weigh more. And you know, one of the few birds with solid bones doesn't fly. It's a penguin. You know, they dive to great depths and they got to withstand high pressure, water pressure. So they have solid bones. So diving birds often have solid bones, but flying birds are more hollow or more porous bones. Question there, nice and loud. What do their eggs look like? They look like white chicken eggs, but they're a little smaller than the chicken egg.
And round.
And they're round instead of shaped like a chicken egg.
Over against the windows there.
What's the purpose of the owl turning its head 180 degrees?
Why does the owl turn its head 270?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they can't move their eyes, so it helps them see what's around them. And it's an adaptation for, you know, seeing their environment and hunting. And you know why their eyes can't move? Is they're so big. Their eyes are so large for low light work. They can't move their eyeballs, so they've adapted to move their whole head. So they kind of gave up, you know, eye movement for better low light performance at night. Now an owl can't see color too well, but they sure can see in low light. Better than you and I could.
Mark, why don't we take one more
I
question?
think she
and
remembered her
then
question.
we will be around for questions.
Question here.
Could you teach them how to live in the wild?
It would be very hard, and it would probably, they'd have a high mortality rate. So generally, imprinted birds, it's not a good idea to try to release them into the wild. If you were going to raise a bird that was not imprinted, you could potentially release it, but it's been shown that they have high mortality rates when you do.
And
So
what's that mean?
means they usually get killed in their first year of life. They usually die. So it's not a great idea, no.
Well, Mark is a wildlife photographer, and
We're going to donate a print to the center here. And this is a snowy owl that I photographed in Massachusetts, up in the dunes at a beach. And maybe this will be hung somewhere where you can see it. And you remember the time that owls came to Quincy. And
we also do offer them for sale, and just come up and give them a look.
all proceeds go to the Mouse Fund. Because believe it or not, we spend $1,000 a month on mice for food. Yeah, we call it the Mouse Mortgage. And so we sell prints to help raise money for food. But check out the Owl Gallery, even if you're not going to buy one. There's lots of nice images up here to look at. And thank you all. You've been a great audience. And we'll take your question afterwards. You can come up.
And we'd like the director to come up and accept us if he's still with us.
Sure.
And thank you so much for having us.
Was that a great show or what? Terrific, huh? Certainly want to thank Mark and Marsha.
Thank you.
We doing the cookies later?
On
Or?
the way up.
On the way out,
Way up.
okay.
We have a little surprise.
We have a little surprise on the way out. See how things work around here? Yeah, you tell me. Okay, so we're gonna just, they can look at the pictures and,
Yep.
all right.
And we'll be around for questions.
Hey, thanks so much. And listen, all the kids, tell your grandma and grandpa that the Senior Olympics are coming up, and you'll come and cheer them on if they join the Senior Olympics, which is coming up. Starts the day after Mother's Day.